Welcome to Voices from the Hill, celebrating the vibrant literary voices of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm your host, Jennifer Barone, along with Joseph Carboni, owner of Telegraph Hill Books. Each episode, we sit down with a local author to explore their creative process, inspirations, and the unique stories that shape our community. Today we are joined by poet Andrew Paul Nelson, author of the recent poetry collection, How to Draw a Guillotine, and the owner of the Golden Sardine in North Beach, an intimate wine bar that has quickly become a cultural hub for Bay Area poets and writers. Through his thoughtful creation of wine, his literary journal, Apocrypha, and his work organizing the Coit Tower Poetry Club every first Friday, Andrew has helped create a vibrant, welcoming space where community and creativity meet. We're so excited to dive into his creative process, his inspirations, and what he's exploring in his latest work and poetic life. Andrew Paul Nelson, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, welcome to
Joseph.
Voices from the Hill.
I literally live a block away.
Yeah. So we're going to kick it off today with some poems from Andrew's book, How to Draw a Guillotine. So tell us what you've chosen to read today and also why it holds special meaning for you.
Well, we're on Grant Avenue, and this is called A People's History of Grant Avenue. Old Mussolini wannabes of North Beach, I caught you washing your dirty flutes off in the street. I entered your dreams and contrived within them a nightmare of clocks, spying on you as you plot the inevitable demise of time. Oh, lousy calendar, not a date worth keeping, untimely harvester of words, I rearrange your alleyways in hopes you might wander off into sunspots. Even our memories of you disappear like the sounds you made before language. Oh, death-rattled blues, every goddamn poet here thinks they're a rock star. Every goddamn rock star thinks they're a poet. In truth, y'all are perfect. Colombian neckties mirror the blood on the slack wire. Speak, you natural-born whisperers, you. I recall your book burning, holding each other like a grudge, faceless and bathed in refracted light. Armies of lagerlouts, blindsided by love, mirror the conquest of nature and man. I keep a piece of myself locked inside you. Oh, heavenly ping-pong balls ebbing in see-through houses, noxious blue, too busy living and dying for poetry. Holy and stillborn gutters, street lips tied over what remains of tomorrow. Oh, eternal return of patchouli milkshake. Yeah, baby, it sure is hard to be a blue cheese lady in a hot sauce world. Oh, faulty sewer drain as birdbath. Funny how things can be used towards accidental joy once they are broken. Oh, what is metaphor if not cold metal on stone? Who will write these poems if you won't?
I love this poem so much.
Thank you.
So much of your poetry, I think, is about the immediacy of being here, being present in this place. And you got your start, pretty much out on the street.
Yeah.
16th and Mission.
That's right. That's right.
And now Coit Tower Poetry Club. I guess the themes in this particular book, How to Draw a Guillotine, I wonder, you mentioned book burning, for instance, and there's the current social and political climate. Do you see, the themes in this book as touching on that a little bit, but also being personal and introspective as well?
Yeah, the book was mostly written in 2020, so I had kind of fallen out with poetry. Wasn't a huge part of my life. I don't know.
How is that possible?
I know, it was weird. I had like a wine sales job that kind of took over my life. And I was still reading poetry. I was still writing a lot. I think I was writing poems, but I never was finishing anything. I was no longer doing readings. I probably didn't do a reading for like 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I became kind of like secretly a poet. Like all of my new friends in the wine sales community did not know that it was a part of my life, which I enjoyed keeping it secret. But suddenly in 2020, which I know was really a tough time for a lot of folks, I had a lot of free time. And I spent that time listening to a lot of music and watching a lot of films and reading a lot. And suddenly writing poems again and finishing poems again. And yeah, 2020 was such a radical time to have time to do art. And also in this neighborhood where I've lived for 17, 18 years, 2020 and 2021, we lost like some of the biggest and most important, influential, revolutionary poets of our community, of this American poetic tradition. Lawrence passed away, Jack passed away, Dan DePrima passed away, Q.R. Hand passed away,
Yes.
Michael McClure passed away, Al Young passed away, like literally within like, I don't know, 18 months of each other. So I felt this like gap, like this space, and I would look out the window every day and at North Beach, which I wasn't really going into because we were kind of stuck in our houses, and I was thinking a lot about what we can do to keep carrying the torch that they carried in the way that they carried it. And I felt this, both Caitlin, my wife, and I feel this like immense, not pressure, but like privilege to continue to work in that way.
Do you feel like a certain responsibility in a way to keep poetry, because it's a living tradition?
Yeah.
And it's an evolving tradition.
Yeah.
You know, do you see a difference? I mean, a lot of the poets here that you and I know, you know, we looked up to these people and like we admire them. And with Coit Tower Poetry Club, I love, which happens every first Friday up at Coit Tower.
Yeah.
We, you know, honor a particular poet every month, which is really a beautiful tradition as well. That is kind of a new tradition that you've started in our neighborhood. But there's a certain honoring, and I feel like City Lights Bookstore is part of that too, is like an honoring of these waves of poets that have come in. But do you see a difference between, let's say, you know, our generation or the younger generations coming up, reading on the street corner, reading out at the venues for poetry in Golden Sardine, as opposed to, the generation that is kind of transitioning now?
Sure, definitely there's a difference, but I definitely feel like whether your average American realizes this, like, it's poetry is a massive thing, and it kind of always has been. In every part of the world, in every big city and every small city, there is a poetry scene.
Right.
Like, there are poets, there have always been poets. It is an art form that has always existed, will continue to exist, even if it's not connected to any type of financial gain, which I think is why it's so special and appealing to a lot of folks.
Let's just clarify that it's not connected to any financial gain.
Exactly. It's not something you do because you want to be famous or make money. I always think about Charlie Getter, who's like really important in a lot of our poetry journeys and very inspirational poet in our lives, and has a line in one of his poems about how poetry is an affliction, and those of us who got it, we got it bad, and if you don't got it, then you shouldn't do it. I've always felt that like I didn't really choose it. It's not something that if I were to think about it, maybe that's why for 5 years I didn't write poems, because I was like, this is a lot of my energy and space and time, and I could be using that other ways that actually have some return on investment. But yeah, it's something that, I don't know, do you feel that way, that it's something you have to do?
100%. I mean, I'm like, it's making me think your question of like, what is the ROI of poetry? Like, why are we so obsessed with it? Why do we feel like we can't live without it? I feel like I cannot live without poetry in my life. Like, I can't live without writing it. I can't live without hearing it, reading it, being an active like participant in it. It's just something that I feel like if it were missing in my life, like, I don't know.
I don't want it to sound like there's no return on investment, because I feel like for example, I was part of why I got out of poetry is because I was in bands, we were writing a lot of music, we were touring, putting out albums, and that kind of became the focus of my creative energy, and that ended, and then I never replaced that with anything. But I always felt that with music, for 20 years of my life, I put so much into it, and I got so little out of it. And I've always felt, since like I first started hanging out on the street corner and became a part of a poetry scene, even the tiny bit that I've ever given to poetry or to my poetry community, I've always gotten back 10 times more.
Like in what way?
It's like a secret group of similar weirdos that all have this same fetish that doesn't make sense to anyone else but each other. Like back to Charlie's poem. And I would see, like, first time I saw Jonathan Siegel read poems, first time I saw Sam Sachs read poems, first time I saw M.G. Martin read poems, I was just like, holy shit, this is something I want to be a part of. This is something that is so fulfilling in so many ways to me. And then to be writing and performing poems with them, that was like, I remember being 22, 23 years old and just being like, this is the greatest experience of my life. I felt so a part of something, and I felt like what we were doing was absurd but also important, and I still feel that way. And now with having a bookstore and a poetry venue in arguably the most important poetry neighborhood in the world, we just get so much from it. And I meet people from all over the world every day that are weirdos like us, that this is their life and it doesn't make sense. And that's partly why they love it so much.
I want to ask you about your personal work as well, your personal poetry. Like, do you see your poetry evolving from your earliest street and underground work to this collection, this new book that you put out, or are there threads that remain consistent through both?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I hope it's different. I think I had a manuscript 10, 15 years ago when I was first getting into poetry that at the time, I think with a few other folks, we were all trying to get published. Mm-hmm. And I never did really pursue it. And then 10 years later, looking back on that manuscript, I'm like, I'm pretty glad I didn't publish that. I don't think I would be stoked about it now. I think I'm still working through the same relationship to language. Mm-hmm. My background is philosophy, and I used to get deducted points on philosophy papers in college because of the language I would use, and I always thought your papers are being graded by a TA and not the actual professor, and they're deducting points because you used a word they had to look up. And I was reading a lot and discovering all these new words, and I would keep a journal of every time I would learn a word that I never heard before, and I would try to use it in context and use it in writing, and a lot of my poems came out of all this new language to me. And it became very clear that philosophy school and philosophy papers was not the space for that.
Yet poetry, there's the philosophic component.
Totally.
Definitely into poetry.
So yeah, culmination of moving to this neighborhood and deciding that the best use of language for me was going to be writing poems, and just liberating it from anyone putting pluses or minus on whatever word I chose. Totally revolutionized my relationship to language. I think it's totally different than it was then. I'm not screaming poems on the street to be heard, which was the first couple of years. But I think I'm still angry about the state of the world. Yeah. And I have a difficult time. This book has been finished for many years, and I've had a difficult time figuring out what the next thing is, because I feel like I'm still angry. I'm even more angry than I was when I was writing that book, and I don't want to write about the same thing anymore. But I can't seem to get past the moment that we live in.
Do you feel like there's a responsibility of the poet to be speaking out on these kinds of issues or creating change through their work?
I think yes and no. I think that if you're a poet and you are actively creating poetry in a world that does not know what to do with it, that in and of itself, regardless of what you're writing about, is a revolutionary act. People that are you're not a revolutionary poet if you don't use this word or that word or say this thing or that thing in your poem, I think are kind of missing the point. I think poetry in and of itself is not normal. It's not status quo. It is an affront to the way that people use language every day and become used to. So I think it is radical always, no matter what it is or what it is about. But then taking that and saying, okay, with having that potential, you're totally free to do whatever you want with that language. What are you going to do with it? And maybe because of the tradition in this neighborhood and the people that got me into poetry, like my eye-opening moment with poetry is Amiri Baraka, and still kind of my the thing that I read the most and think the most about. And being that being inspiring to me, Ferlinghetti being inspiring to me, the radical revolutionary poets of this generation being wildly inspiring to me. I feel like, I can't really write poems about the sky or flowers or the park or whatever.
What do you consider revolutionary?
The premise of the book is that there are way more of us that don't have the financial power and influence than there are that do. And as soon as the large group of us realize that collectively we do have this power, it would not be that difficult to change that. There's a massive the odds are stacked against the billionaire class of fascist people obsessed with money. And the French Revolution was, in the grand scheme of things, not that long ago. So I think the main aesthetic of the book is to use language to imagine things differently. And I think that's, like I was saying earlier, like poetry will always do that, even if it's not directly about change, radical change, even if it's not built on metaphorical structures about radical change. It's giving you the opportunity to think differently because it's not fitting into the way things are.
There's something about Coit Tower Poetry Club, also Golden Sardine, reading on the street corner, 16th and Mission, that there's this collective energy where it's not only about the poet that's reading, but it's about like the whole group energy. It's about people being actively together and in a public space too. And there's not many public spaces together. Like in Europe, we got the piazza, and they were trying to build a piazza here, and we kind of have, Washington Square Park and Coit Tower is like our piazza. But it's like very difficult to find places where people can gather for free, let's just say, or have community where they could share ideas. But so in that respect, I feel like these places that you are creating and have always been a part of are revolutionary just in and of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that comes from Viracocha.
Right.
And like Jonathan Siegel met on the street corner. He ran a series, I don't know if you ever went, called Poetry Mission, briefly in the back room at Dalva. And that was when I first was getting into poetry and first hanging out with that group of people. And those were like still some of my favorite memories.
Oh my gosh.
There's a poet, Ed Bowers, and Brandon published a very long piece of his about bed bugs, which is to this day one of my all-time favorite poems. I have to find it. I don't know where it is. Brandon probably has it. But it's like a 15, 20-minute poem about bed bugs. And the book release party was at that back room in Dalva as part of Poetry Mission, and it was just Ed Bowers, me, Charlie, Brandon, Shy, and Jonathan. And Ed got up to the microphone and he had a bag of jalapenos, and he said, "If you don't like my poems, you can eat these." And he threw them at us, and then he read for like 25 minutes. And I was like, this is the greatest experience of my life. I love this so much.
I feel like we should have a storytelling night where we tell out all the crazy things that have happened at the poetry reading.
Brandon is the scribe. He's got all of that down. He was at all of those things. But they wanted to turn that room in the back room at Dalva into like a bar. So they kicked Jonathan and all the poets out. And Jonathan didn't want to just be reading on the street. So he came up with this idea to open, I'm still not exactly sure what Viracocha was or what they sold. It was like kind of an antique store. It was like a place for local artisans to sell their things. And then downstairs it was a art venue, and it was like nothing I've ever experienced. It was, and at that time in my life when I really felt that community was exploding. There was so much opportunity, so many poets, people getting coming through here and being like, there's so much going on here, I want to be a part of this. But it was pretty apparent early on that like that wasn't financially a stable business. And it was John kept it up for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. It was really special, but it never seemed like there was any way that it could sustain itself. And it's the same thing with, remember, Emerald Tablet up here, which was another really important poetry space in the neighborhood. That was the last time I saw Mary Baraka read was there. Like some of my favorite readings were there. We used to host a series there as well. Wow. And, you know, they couldn't legally sell alcohol. There was no way to make money to pay the rent there. That space lasted, I don't know, 2-3 years maybe. So it was clear to both Caitlin and I that like we wanted a poetry space exactly like you're talking about, a community space for poetry in the neighborhood, but it had to make money. So the idea was like, I'd been working in wine for so long, I had helped other friends open wine bars that were very successful right away, and kind of saw that, okay, I could open a wine bar, I know how to do it, I know how to make it successful financially. What if we opened a wine bar that was also a poetry bookstore, and the wine sales element could support the poetry element? That's what we did.
Tell us a little bit about the name Golden Sardine and your inspiration for it.
Yeah, Golden Sardine is number 21 in City Light's Pocket Poet series, written by Bob Kaufman, street poet laureate emeritus of this neighborhood. I would say the most influential poet of his generation. I think a lot of the folks of that generation that are more well known than Bob are riffing on Bob in a lot of ways, and like kind of speak Bob. Bob like almost invented language in a way of, a poetic form, and I think that gets lost. Yeah, I don't know. It was always going to be something that the name was always going to be something that paid homage to the historical poetry culture of this neighborhood. Also, it's always sounded like a North Beach bar or restaurant. Like it sounded like it already existed, and it fit into this, like there were so many spaces in the neighborhood historically, and they had these absurd names that had nothing to do with what they did. It's like that across the street.
Live worms.
We have live worms, which is still great, but that across the street was the Coexistence Bagel Shop.
Oh, wow.
And they did not sell bagels. It was a bar. The Spaghetti Factory was right here, and it did not sell spaghetti. It was a bar. There was a place called The Place that was right here, and it was just a bar and poetry space. We still have Mario's Bohemian Cigar Store Cafe that has not sold cigars since like the 50s, 60s.
But you do sell sardines.
I know, yeah. Which is kind of a trick because we sell a lot of sardines, and that's because people think we're a sardine bar because tin fish has become such a thing.
Yeah. With some of the most beautiful packaging.
Yeah, and my background with wine and food is Spain and Portugal, so like Yes, I've been into it for many years. I did not know that it had become such a thing, and it's funny. We allow for that misconception to exist. We don't really correct people, but we'll always let people know, like, oh, we're actually named after this book of poems. We're actually not a sardine bar.
I think it's such a cool story of the name of the place. But so this, wine bar is very intimate, very beautiful. It's won awards, I think, right? Like most romantic date night place, best bar. But it is a cultural hub as well. I mean, you sell wine, beautiful food. You have pop-up, chefs come in, like specialty winemakers come in for tastings. It's got so much rich culture that's happening in this very small space. And you sell books, and you sell wine, and you have events, which is just incredible. So you're approaching your 2-year anniversary. Come January 25th, going to be a big party there to celebrate. But during this 2 years that you've had, like, have there been some like key moments or like incredible things that have happened in this space that were sort of beyond surprising or beyond your imagination of what you wanted for the space?
Yeah, it happens all the time. And it's like, running a small business, just you and one other person, is like 60 to 80 hours a week. Like, it's so much time and it's so draining, and I am like completely exhausted all the time. Like, if I stop, I just fall asleep. Like at Thanksgiving, I was asleep by like 8 o'clock.
The turkey does that.
So I forget probably the food. But I forget sometimes about like why we're doing it, and then every time there's a reading upstairs, it is like blatantly obvious to me that this is even more than we could have imagined. Like, I've always kept the wine part of my life and the poetry part of my life very separate, and was pretty nervous for years about marrying those two, and it just made like total sense the whole time.
Do you think there's a connection between wine and poetry?
I think a lot of poets I know drink pretty heavily. And other than that...
On the flip side of that, like, I feel like winemakers, especially like small boutique, like specialty winemakers, they often talk about making wine as being like a bottled poetry, sometimes. But like, it's like the storytelling sometimes behind their experience of even growing it.
I don't know. They're still separate in my mind for some reason. I haven't found that.
You haven't really truly married the two yet.
No,
it's non-committal.
We publish a magazine called Living Poets, and there is it's mostly poets. There's a couple of not like prose in there as well, and there's one reminiscing from one of our favorite winemakers in Napa, Steve Mathiasen, who in the 90s was a bike messenger in San Francisco, when like being a bike messenger was like you were like God's gift to the world. And he has these very fond memories of him and his crew of bike messengers rolling through North Beach and getting off work and all coming to North Beach. And every time I see him, and every time he comes to the bar, he's so excited to be in North Beach, and he wants to tell these stories. And I was like, why don't you write this for us and we'll put it in our magazine?
Ooh.
So like in the magazine there is 3 or 4 pages by Steve Mathiasen on North Beach.
Tell us about this magazine. Can people submit to it, or how's it working? It's
more of like there's an amazing scene in the Bay Area right now that is like we have such access to because we are a bookstore and an event space. So it is poems we either saw read at the bar, or I don't get to go to a lot of readings anymore, but I try as much as I can to still get out there.
Well, now the readings come to you.
Yeah, it's not the same. It was just it's like a list of 20 of the poets in the Bay Area that I'm most obsessed with, and either saying, hey, I saw this piece, I would love this piece for the magazine, or asking them like, hey, can you send us 3 pieces and we'll pick our favorite. Mm-hmm. It's currently not a submission based thing,
so it's curated.
Yeah, and the first issue just came out a couple months ago.
And we can buy this at Golden Sardine?
You can get it at the bar. Hopefully we put it out every year. It took me 2 years to make this one, on top of like running the bar, so there's not a ton of time to do it, but it's certainly worthwhile. You're
like publishing books, you're publishing a literary journal, you're running the events. I mean, that's so much work. It really is. Like, how do you balance the two?
I don't. I try to answer as many emails as I can, as quickly as I can, but it's like I lose every day. Yeah, I'm going to make a list at the end of this year of all the things I do and be like, who wants to do some of these things? Because, I mean, I've stepped back from a lot of things. Like, I'm not involved in Coit Tower Poetry Club whatsoever. And you and I should talk about Ferlinghetti Day this year, because I was way too involved in it last year, and it was amazing, particularly the reading that you were a part of at the Historical Society with all of Lawrence's things. But, like, I can't organize. I think I organized 8 readings all in one day.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't have time. I don't have the time or energy for that. So hopefully someone else can pick that up.
Maybe you can just host a part at Golden Sardine.
I think eventually the bar will run itself more, and that'll create more time and space to focus more on making the publishing element more legit, like getting distribution, trying to get books in stores and stuff, which currently we don't really do because we can sell most of it through the bar.
Yeah, where are you thinking of taking the publishing arm next?
We would love for it to be real. It's just not something I've ever done, and there isn't like that I know of just like here's what you do if you want to have a legitimate small press. And what's cool is there is, particularly since we're a bookstore now, like every day there's like 20 new small poetry presses, and every major publishing company still puts out poetry, even though it's like, you know, ostensibly a public service. Like they're not making money on it either. Like it's still a massive growing medium.
Why do you think
I have
that
no
is?
idea. Like I said, I think it's a human thing that exists everywhere and always has and always will.
Mm.
Whether times are good, whether times are bad,
Yeah.
people are always going to be writing poems and trying to get people to read them.
Is the Apocrypha journal different from Living Poets?
Yes, that was the original publication, but that is no longer. And
Oh.
that was last year we put out a magazine.
Okay.
And then this year it's called Living Poets.
Okay, so it's
And
changing.
it'll go on as Living Poets.
And is the press name the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Poets, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's hear another poem.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wait, that was yours. This is a poem for Arthur Russell. The award for Best Dream goes to Crater Face Cowboy, Professor Moonlight, whose only regret was never having had one, who chose to be abandoned, terribly infantile self-saboteur, guardian angel of tramps and Marlboro men, latchkey desert wanderers, and disappearing artists. All your leftover secrets hidden away inside metamorphic love, safe and sound in your East Village tape recorder, your unfinished manifestos leave a pretty corpse. Volume after volume of lust well lived, a junkie magician's catalog, a 5-story walk-up you breathe, famous on both sides. And the award for Best Dream goes to Old Mesmerist Kitchen Conjurer, Iowa Tall Grass Whisperer, a real hole in the floor, a transcendental portal connecting this leaky basement to the all-night disco and free lunch program. Follow the flashing emergency exit signs to the clever trail of Eucharist on fire, from the window at the top of the stairs to the cello's only orgy beneath St. Christopher Street Pier. How come nobody likes you, Eli? All bare bones, fragmented form, a simple dog all heavy in heaven. Crude renderings of an afterlife, lilting shapeless like a dead-end street. You surrender raw, finality of organs, amorphous febrile phantasmagoria, and the award for Best Dream goes to Lonely Heart Nightingale, Death Memory Miracle Worker, a midnight minstrel ambling the empty avenues at dawn, tongue in hand. Every streetlight a lucid reminder of timelessness. Each season returning your warmth, eternal. In spring you are yourself. In summer, total anarchy, and you are yourself in fall, though you have no fear of drifting back into formless animality, and you are yourself in winter, though the clock hustles like the wind. And you're eager to forget the killer inside you, vagabond, eclipsed moon apostle, keeper of irreversible time. On Sundays, death comes over, we get high and watch Days of Heaven, while the winos in Washington Square Park stage walkouts against the paper bag tax. Benjamin Franklin tosses his time capsule into the sea. My ghost muse sits cross-legged in a crater on the moon, heavy as America, gazing up at the stoop and dreaming.
Being in this neighborhood, because you mentioned Washington Square Park in there, and the people on the street, this city and this neighborhood has changed a lot and is always kind of like evolving. But there was something that drew you here, and there's something that still keeps you here, and there's something that's alive here for you. But tell us about your experience in North Beach.
Man, I moved here in 2007. It was the neighborhood. I went to USF originally. And it was kind of insular, like people didn't really leave USF, or if they did, they went to like the Haight or they went to the beach. North Beach was like exotic, and I'm from a really small town, so I remember like the first few times walking up and down Columbus, walking up Telegraph Hill, and just being like, I've never seen anything like this, and there's so much life. It's such a beautiful neighborhood, like just the aesthetics of the neighborhood, the way it sits on the hill, the views everywhere. It's just the most beautiful place. And then City Lights is unlike anything that maybe exists on Earth. And speaking of free community spaces, like I would go in that basement and just read every day.
Or the poetry room
Or
upstairs.
the poetry room and just read every day.
It's the most amazing
You
poetry
can still
room.
do that. You can still take 6 hours out of your day and go to City Lights, and no one's going to hassle you. It was always meant to be exactly what you're talking about. That was always Lawrence's idea, and it's still that, like, whatever, 70 years later. That's incredible in that those types of spaces, even like in the neighborhood I was talking about, this space used to be this space used to be this, and all these spaces used to be poetry spaces. And they've all gone by the wayside. But City Lights still exists, and first time I saw Mary Baraka read was at City Lights, and that kind of sparked the poetry thing in me. And still, I try to go to as many readings there as I can, and it's so special.
Yeah, this little like neighborhood is only maybe just a few blocks long, but it's so chock full of stuff. Like, I mean, the fact that I've lived here like 20 years and I still love it says a lot. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, you still meet people, but like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you met more of the old weirdos of North Beach. Like, there's so many
the characters,
strange, beautiful, why do you exist? Even if they're not poets, they're like poetic characters. Like the fact that you're a person and a thing in the world, and because of like rent control, you've been able to stay in San Francisco for 40, 50 years. It's amazing. Like, so many places don't get to have those things. And sadly, that generation, like the poets we were talking about, are all passing on. So like, who's going to be the next generation of North Beach weirdos?
We're the new characters.
Yeah, but we're kind of the old character. I mean, we're in the middle there. We're like we're not cool anymore, but we're not like old school enough to be old school, and we're not like new on the block to be new on the block. So we're like in this weird gray area.
I have never considered myself cool, but
yeah. So I think about that a lot. So the space is hopefully encouraging there to be an existence of the North Beach weirdo that people wonder how it is that this person in this place can exist, although that's changing a lot.
Yeah, I noticed you and Caitlin also travel quite a bit. Like, you've been in Europe and maybe going also to see like Shakespeare and Company bookstore and places like that. But what do you feel like in terms of traveling and then sometimes coming back to this neighborhood of, like, you know, the international poetry communities and literary pockets?
Yeah, I mean, North Beach has such a name in poetry all over the world. City Lights has such a name all over the world. The poets from this, from the community that influenced, you know, a lot of us, that influenced a lot of people all over the world as well. It's like the same kind of starting points for a lot of folks. I love coming back to San Francisco. I love flying in and seeing the city, and I definitely, when we do leave, which is totally necessary to get out, get perspective, but like I love coming back. It's my favorite feeling. I feel rejuvenated and like refreshed in a way, so I can look at this opportunity that we have, like with this space that we run, to continue that legacy of the neighborhood. Yeah.
And you said you met like people coming from all over the world coming through Golden Sardine as well. Like, do you see like a collaboration or a conversation also happening across borders because of your cultural hub?
I mean, sure. None that I can pinpoint. But the space is there for that, and poetry is that language that can connect those things. Like when we were in Paris, it was Bob Kaufman's 100th birthday this year in April, and that was a really special day in the neighborhood. There was a lot of readings everywhere.
This was in Paris?
No, well, this was here in North Beach in April, and then in June we went to Paris, and we found a bunch of copies of Kaufman in French. And so everywhere we went, we would try to get people to read Kaufman in French. We went to Baudelaire's grave, and we, in honor of Bob's 100th year, we read Kaufman in both French and English to Baudelaire's grave.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did poetry bring you and Caitlin together?
Totally, yeah. I mean, it was in that time where it was like kind of a secret thing that not everyone knew, and the second that I met her, I made it very clear that actually this is the rest of my personality is a ruse, is a trick. Mostly I just want to write poems. I had friends in the wine industry I remember telling too, when I was like really deep into wine sales and not much else, that like ultimately I just want to stop all of this and just write.
Just write.
Like I know I have stuff that's unfinished that I want to finish. I never felt like it was over. I always knew it'd come back. It was just like kind of like not looking at something for a while so you can go back and look at it. And Caitlin's a poet as well.
Yes.
So yeah.
Do you write together?
No. We've tried something. We've done some things together where more like, you know, she's probably my first editor, and if she'll let me look at something, like, and yeah.
Are you both secretive about your work?
Yeah, to me, it's not really I love working on, like, getting edits from, like, poets I respect. Like, this book is, one of the editors is our friend Lauren Parker, who's one of the editors for the magazine as well, and, like, one of my favorite Bay Area poets, lives in Oakland. And the first meeting we had on my manuscript was, like, she went through every line and is like, why this, why not that? And it was so great because it makes you, even if, like, she challenged me on this should be this, like, I don't think a lot of changes came out of that experience, but it made me justify and think about what I had written. Like, I never sit down and write a poem. Like, a poem will take me weeks, months, years often. So, like, every word and where it sits has been changed 100 times, and I've decided on this. But then someone challenging you on it forces you to, like, defend it and understand what you were doing in a much different way. And I love that. That was super fun. I think that's something that a lot of maybe, I don't know if this is your experience, a lot of poets are it's so intimate to them. Like, their work is so almost not private, but, like, they would never let you edit their manuscript or say a word about the way that they wrote a poem. Yeah. Because it's like an affront to their character. It's like, no, we're both artists. We both work in the same medium. And I think perspective is good. Yeah, so I'm all about editing.
Yeah, it's good to get that objective on your book, on your writing. So it sounds like you might have a new manuscript in the works.
No, hell no. I wish.
Well,
I need another global pandemic to finish a book.
No, let's not.
Fingers crossed. I also need, like, a month off, so whatever we can do.
Yeah, you need some carved out time so that you could be focusing on your writing. Well, we're going to end our interview on this one question. So I feel like because you've lived in the city so long, you've experienced so much, you're basically creating these spaces for our poetry culture to thrive and survive and evolve. But looking back on your journey here, if you could give advice to a young poet moving to San Francisco today who's looking to cut their teeth in the poetry scene, either get out on the street or just kind of get involved in the poetry community, what would your advice to them be? Like, where would you tell them to go? What would you tell them to do? Who would you tell them to seek out?
Oh, man, there's so many. I feel like it's getting closer to, like, when you and I first met, where there was so many readings happening, and I feel like that's happened again. If you don't know about Decentered Arts, it's friends of ours, Liz and Rhea, that put it on, and they have, I don't know, maybe they put together like 1 or 2 events a week. A lot of them have open mics attached to them. There's one called Gen Blend that we're sort of a part of that happens every first Thursday, so it'll be this Thursday, that is meant to connect, and this is something that we try to do as well at the bar, and it's connect different generations of artists. So it's not just like one scene and one age group, but it's like multiple different scenes, multiple age groups all reading together. And that has an open mic portion as well. My favorite reading in the city, and I don't get to go very often, but I will try every other month to leave early on a Thursday from work to go down to the Mission to Medicine for Nightmares. There's a series there that Josiah has been running called Speaking Ashalot. That is, like, unlike any open mic I've ever been to, because it's a lot of people from the same community that are really, really fantastic poets, and it's more of a salon where they're all sharing new work together, and they're all incredible. It's not your average open mic where, like, some bad comedian wanders up at some point and tells really terrible jokes. It's the best reading I go to whenever I get to go to readings, and I always leave, like we were talking about earlier, where you put something into something and you get so much back. I always leave with feeling so excited, and that's the fact that that space exists is also kind of like a miracle to me. And every time I walk in there, I feel like I'm in a dream, but it's like not a dream. And then I would go find Charlie Getter somewhere and just follow him around. Follow him around for a couple of months. If you can survive that, then you'll be great. You'll be good.
If you meet Charlie, it'll be a good time.
For sure. The guy eats, leaves, and breathes poetry all day, every day. It's his entire existence and has been for as long as anyone's known that guy.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
It is such a joy and a pleasure to have read with you, to know you.
Thank you. You too.
To collaborate with you and have like fun events together. And the creation of Golden Sardine has been just like such an incredible like boon for this neighborhood and this community to have this hub that you've created with Caitlin. So thank you for the Golden Sardine. And thank you for your friendship.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew Paul Nelson. Check out his book, How to Draw a Guillotine. Go get it at Golden Sardine. Go get it at your local independent bookstores, including Telegraph Hill Books and others. And for listeners who'd like to learn more about Andrew Paul Nelson and his work, you can visit goldensardinesf.com or on Instagram at goldensardinesf. And you can experience live local poetry events at the Golden Sardine every first Friday, which is a really fun event all throughout this neighborhood. But definitely go to Golden Sardine at 6 p.m. first Friday of the month for an incredible poetry reading that's personally curated. And come and celebrate the Golden Sardine's 2-year anniversary. There's going to be food, incredible wine, incredible poetry. Sunday, January 25th, yours truly will be reading there, as well as many great other poets. And find his books around the neighborhood at your local independent bookstores. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Jen and Joseph.
This podcast is brought to you by Telegraph Hill Arts and Literature. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow, subscribe, and leave us a review. Visit telhighlit.org to find out about our local events such as author talks, writing workshops, and more. Consider making a donation to support our public programs. If you're a Bay Area author interested in being on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at submissions@telhighlit.org. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Jennifer Barone, along with Joseph Carboni at Telegraph Hill Arts and Literature, and this has been Voices from the Hill. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, stay inspired, and come visit us at Telegraph Hill Books in North Beach, San Francisco.